Revenge films.
I'm a senior high school student. I have a unique collection of hobbies. The collection was rather expensive for a high school student, and it required special care. It took me a year to collect them all. My family wasn't very enthusiastic about it. My sister couldn't believe it and didn't understand at all about my collection. My mother also repeatedly told me to handle them carefully. Of course, I understood everything and even locked my room, although nobody bothered to come in. But one day, a burglar broke into my room and stole my entire collection. It was in the middle of a weekday and I was in school. It was my mother who saw a broken window to my room and reported that my room was ransacked. I was called away during class and hurried home, where I found several police officers searching inside and outside of my house. My room was a disaster. They took some of my video games, an empty piggy bank, and the boxes of my entire collection from the locked shelves. I was devastated. As I said, it was very difficult, and it took a long time for a student to collect these. And now they're all gone, and my room is in complete chaos. As a matter of fact, I just stood there for a while, unable to comprehend the situation. I couldn't figure out why they took my collection. They could make a little money by reselling the games, but why would they take those? I was at a loss looking around the total mess when an officer asked if we could talk. After the initial search of the premises, he suspected that it was the work of professionals. A pro would break part of the window and reach the lock inside rather than breaking the entire glass. He's right. Although they destroyed my room, they only did minimal damage to the window, which looked efficient. To make matters worse, they were unable to take fingerprints or footprints. I was told this could be a difficult case. With all these damages, they can do nothing about it? I was furious, yet there was nothing I could do. But since the stolen goods were sensitive, they needed to report it to the authorities, and they asked for my cooperation. I filed a report and filled out some paperwork at the police station. They told us not to go home that night since they needed a more thorough investigation of my house, so we went to my grandfather's house. My mom received a lot of encouraging messages and emails from our neighbors, and so did I. Seemed like everybody at school knew what happened to us. I also got some messages from my old friends, and it took me a while to respond. A week later, they caught a suspect. While we were having dinner, I got a phone call from the police asking me to come down to the station. When I arrived there with my dad, we were shown into a room with several police officers and a frightening-looking woman with half her face covered in bandages. I couldn't help but feel an eerie feeling about her bandages. As soon as I sat down opposite her, the scary woman started screaming and pointing at me. She kept yelling at me and calling me names. I couldn't make out half of what she was saying. But to summarize, it was something like this.
I got the information that you keep some valuable items in the house, but it turned out to just be a strange powder. I didn't see the use of it, so I threw it in the trash and it exploded. I got burned, too. It's all your fault and I'm the victim here. You owe me an apology and compensation.
I couldn't believe what I was hearing. After all, she's a professional burglar and had broken into my room. I didn't know what to say. But she didn't stop there. She screamed, shaking her hair that was sticking out from the bandages. It was a horrific sight. It was then that I realized that my collection could be extremely dangerous and flammable if in the wrong hands. The collection of mine that I kept collecting for the whole year were flammable solids. such as aluminum powder, sulfur, and red phosphorus. They're classified as Class II dangerous goods. They can ignite easily when handled improperly. I got a license for Class II hazardous materials handler in a high school extracurricular class, but I was cautious and only bought the permitted amount. It could have gone much worse than a burn if the sizable amount of those substances were stored together. But I labeled the bottles dangerous. It was this woman who stole them. I couldn't take it anymore, so I rationalized it to her. Then she got upset and reacted badly.
How would I know all that? You're a kid. It's creepy that someone has a collection like that. People like you will become an arsonist one day. You still owe me an apology and compensation. I'm a woman. Look at my face. You did this to me.
She continued to curse and insult me. When she almost jumped on me, she was stopped by the officers. I couldn't find the words to say, so I decided to leave, making it clear that I would assert my rights and press charges on her. After she calmed down somewhat, she started to talk to an investigator. She simply thought that all she needed was not to get caught, and she continued breaking and entering. The police officer who saw my room suspected it wasn't the job of an amateur. Further investigation revealed more similar cases, and they seized the stolen goods from her house. Later, I learned that the woman was a mother of a 9th grade daughter who was a classmate of my sister's. Fortunately, the daughter wasn't home when the fire started. She was also an infamous little thief at school. My sister has been a victim more than once or twice, but despite the circumstances suggesting she was the culprit, there was no evidence or witnesses, and she was never formally charged. But everybody knew. Without evidence, the school couldn't do much or risk being sued. I think like mother, like daughter. The husband of the burglar lived in another city for work, but their house being half burned down, he rushed home. He was furious to learn all of it. My mom told me that the woman came to our house to apologize when I wasn't home. Later, she was officially sentenced and would spend some time in jail. Along the way, she learned about her daughter's inherited trait of kleptomania, and the daughter was to transfer to a new school. And her husband divorced her. I suppose he'll watch over his daughter now. As for the stolen, dangerous goods, I was within my rights and stored them according to the rules and regulations, so I wasn't blamed. Only, I got a warning from a firefighter. Even though it was her fault, half the house was burned down and someone got injured. The chief of firefighters said, "I want you to be aware of how dangerous it is to keep those at home." I never imagined something like this could actually happen with my collection. It was an astonishing event in my life. On the bright side, a repeat offender was caught.
How was today's video? If you enjoyed it, please subscribe, like, and leave a comment. Stay tuned for more.